Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
As always, guys, check in if you can each day. Yesterday, we didn't make it to get one up on EEARTS. We missed, but the first one's going up on EEARTS today. However, we did cover Evolutionary, and we also covered Heart's Home, where we were showing how you can help heal yourself and the earth very, very simply. So again, that's going to be a little bit more practical spirituality, practical upliftment. And let me get rid of that one. Okay, let's get started over here. Another chemical spill happened this time. Mississippi in DeSoto County near the Musacuna Creek. Additionally, another chemical spill in Kentucky. Do you think they are connected? So says Ryan Patrick. I'm not really sure who he is, but hydrofluoric acid spills into the creek. I was just thinking about this. You're seeing this is DeSoto County. And again, it's right up by the Mississippi. And of course, this is Memphis right above. And on the other side, we're going to end up having Arkansas. When we think about what happened over here in East Palestine again, the way the Ohio River flows, it flows right through really a lot of very, very good land where people might think it's a good place to start a little homestead, to do your own farming, and try to survive this apocalypse yourself. And what it's doing is it's really toxifying so much of the country. As again, it eventually flows into the Mississippi and then comes out into the Gulf. In case you haven't been following like all the things that we talk about on a regular basis and other channels like Adapt 2030, Ice Age Farmer used to cover a lot of this. Christian's no longer, doing this. As far as we understand, he is okay. But he, again, there's always a risk that you run when you are pointing things out. Let me just leave it right there. And again, what's happening now is the toxification of the Mississippi. It's just toxic everywhere. 2 waterworks stations in northern Kentucky have shut down their access to water from the Ohio River, which comes down from East Palestine, where the toxic chemical spill occurred. Prudent decision, so says this person. We're not drinking bottled water. There's estrogens in the bottled water. In case you didn't know, the plastics give off chemicals which cause estrogens in the human body, and this has been adding greatly to the decline in fertility, decline in sperm counts. This man doesn't look like Mickey Mouse. He looks a lot bigger than Mickey Mouse, but he says he sounds like Mickey Mouse. Shocking illnesses after the derailment. Yeah, the toxicity is just atrocious. And this is not the only event, as the dogs are eating in the background. Right. So hopefully you guys are okay with a little dingling of the collar right there. EPA orders Norfolk Southern to pause the cleanup of the East Palestine toxic train derailment, despite 102,000 gallons of liquid waste and 4,500 cubic yards of solid waste still on site. Well, we told you how they were shipping the liquid down to the Houston area to be buried underground, under Houston. Yeah. Well, they stopped. They had their fill. They will take no more. So this is part of why they are halting. Now, the solid waste has been getting dumped in Michigan. Yeah, and don't we all know about Flint, Michigan, and toxicity? I mean, here it's again, the problem is the system. The system is the problem. Norfolk Southern train derails in North Carolina as well. Another one. Now, only one of the cars came literally off the track. 132 car freight train. We were out and about yesterday a lot of the day as well. And when we happened upon one freight train that blocked the little town we were going through for, it seemed like 10 full minutes. I don't know how many cars came through. When you think about it, if you've lived towards the center of the country, you will find that there's an awful lot of freight trains always going on. Seems like more than ever these days.
I should have had you bring that up, but I was just curious because we have talked about X marks the spot and how these places, it seems like you overlay, and it seems like, well, those areas that are being affected are pretty close to that X marks the spot when we're going to have the other eclipse. And I mean, is this the general trend? Are these the areas we need to kind of watch for? Maybe it's not exact, but it does sort of kind of seem to have this trend.
Yeah, and I was telling Cindy yesterday, I found this great channel. He's just full of info, and I love stats and info and everything. One of the things that we see here at the X marks the spot is that it is literally at the center point of the current population center of the U.S. If you were to weigh every single person equally and that's in the United States, right where this X is pretty much where it would balance. So, you have a certain proportion up here, you have a certain proportion down there, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, the geographic center point of the population of the United States is currently in southern Illinois. Right by the New Madrid area. Again, New Madrid, if you're not familiar with it, is literally in Missouri. But then again, this is the point where Missouri and you have Illinois and you have Kentucky and you have Tennessee and you have Arkansas and you have not too far away Mississippi right there. All these states come together, and there's some mighty rivers that are right there. So again, if you were trying to toxify a country, because I've always looked at this with a one-track mind, honestly. I've always looked at this and thought eclipses and thought earthquakes. That's just what immediately comes to me. Cascadia, Charleston, South Carolina, there was a major 7.0 or a little bit bigger that hit and liquefied the ground over there. And then there's always a lot of earthquake activity over in Mexico on this coast. And then also up in the St. Lawrence area, there's actually potential up there. And of course, dead center right on the New Madrid. But yeah, also, how about that? If you were to try to split up a country, if you were trying to toxify a country, right down the middle, it would make some sense. So again, another Norfolk train derailment, nothing spilled. This one thankfully looks like a nothing burger. This wasn't a nothing burger. This is a terrifying coal mine collapse in northern China, and this was on 2/22/23. There's no way anybody made it through that. It was just enormous. And to roll it back, you could see, look at all those trucks, and yeah, it all just gets washed away. This is the thing. So we're looking at a tsunami of sand, but again, this could be a tsunami of water in many locations, on our shores in the U.S. and certainly in other countries. And when we think about other countries, the official death toll is over 50,000 in Turkey and Syria at this moment. As we were saying, this was not a little one. Entire cities, entire towns gone. So, again, we send our prayers and condolences to everybody that's in this area, which has been so hard hit. There was snow on Pebble Beach. There actually was a lot of snow in California. You see a rare blizzard warning that has been issued. This was from last night before we went to bed, including Lake Tahoe and Mammoth Lakes, up to 4 to 7 feet of snow expected above 7,000 feet. Now, this is the key. California's Mammoth snowpack is about to get even bigger. And think about when it all melts. Well, it all does weigh. And so we talked about the possibility, the increased chance of earthquakes when you have saturation of the land with, incredible vast amounts of water, snow, packed in on top of very, very, very active faults. And taking a look at quakes, we had a 3.7 over in South Wales. My whole bed shook. Yeah. 3.7, we've rolled through a couple of sevens, and wow, I mean, that was like a basketball team outside our RV pushing it one way and then the other.
Yeah, I mean, out in the desert, it's really vast and it's really flat. So when you have an earthquake, boy, oh boy, do you feel it. And, we did create Heart's Om for a purpose, and that is to send energy meditation to those areas that need it. And if you're new, we did create one just for the Turkey earthquakes, for those people, and please go over, lend your energy to that meditation, and it really creates miracles. Wonderful things can happen when we send out our good intent and open our heart chakras and send it toward those in need.
Absolutely. So we have a 6.1 quake hits Hokkaido, Japan, and then we also had a 6.2 down in Papua New Guinea. Now, both of these, thankfully, no major damage, no loss of life, because they were significant. Again, depends on where the location is that you're going to find more fatalities, especially in older buildings and poorly constructed ones. So we had a M-class flare, 6.3, M6.3, erupts from AR 3229. CME was produced. They say it may give us a glancing blow, according to the article. Should not be anything disruptive. But again, you got to realize all this is having an effect on our consciousness. And in a good way, I think, in many cases. And if you can't deal with past emotional trauma, it could be very, very trying. And this is understanding the psychological aspects, the emotional aspects of the times that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is something that the controllers, when they implement these things, they understand what the sun and the earth can do on our consciousness, because as she goes up in vibration, the sun is speaking, and that's changing our bodies. The sun is plasma. We are plasma. So when we see these sun sneezes and cosmic information flying around, it really changes us. And all of those traumas that we have had in the past, we have to work through them. And if we're not working through them, we're going to be having a lot of trouble. And again, that's why we created Heart's Om. So you can go over there, pick something, anything, and you're going to feel better because you're moving that energy in a harmonious way. And you will feel it. You will feel it in a positive sense. And we just have to kind of walk through this little by little by little.
So we had the 12th asteroid within 1 lunar distance fly by Earth, 0.2 of a lunar distance. So that's a close call. This is a small one, though. It might have left a small impact if it did hit, but it wouldn't have been a city killer. But even though 12 sounds like a lot, it's actually relatively typical. But, these are definitely not typical times. And I don't think everything that we see that they say are asteroids are really asteroids either. Explosion of debris. Tornado hits Wahi Beach in New Zealand. Yeah, again, the land down under, New Zealand, Australia, they've been pounded with severe weather too. It's just been everywhere you look, because over here in East Africa, we got severe drought expected. And we know, as we had listened to one of... I'm trying to remember who she was appointed by. She was appointed by Rishi, I thought, or maybe she was appointed by Rishi's predecessor, who's no longer with us. Anyway, they're all WEF puppets anyway. But anyway, just saying, we can't make it rain in Germany. We can't make it rain in France. You can make it rain anywhere. China admits it. Again, at least they admit it. We can. There's no reason for drought. There's technology in place. This is where, again, you get to the point where you got to say, well, we know it doesn't have to be this way. Why is it this way? Why is it this way? Well, what they are doing, and if we look back at California, what they're doing, I really do think is a lot of it's centered on the fact that they want to trigger that San Andreas and Cascadian event. Record-breaking cold and snow in the Bay Area, blizzards, it can happen. Look at the Sierra Nevadas. All this snowpack it weighs enormous amounts. This is usually totally dry. Obviously, that's a raging river in LA. So it's a lot of weight on the plates. And we saw we saw one guy that was up on top of his there's another one. People waiting to be rescued in LA because they're not used to this. Well, these times are different. Sugary cereal no longer safe and effective, so says the FDA. It never was. Never was. You wonder why diabetes comes around. It's because people eat too much simple sugars and they don't understand how much their diet truly affects them. It's not that, food is fuel. Sure, it's fuel, but it's you. So as you eat these GMOs, you are modifying yourself and turning yourself into one big GMO fruity pebble.
Oh my gosh, and look at the ingredients on these boxes and how many of them can you actually pronounce. I mean, these are long words. I mean, probably have the same chemicals in them that all these factories are doing, spilling in the water, and we're giving it to our children. This is not good.
No, and one of our dear sisters was saying that she's doing better, and with her diet and everything, but she still likes the dry creamer to put in to the coffee. And Cindy had just showed me earlier that day where a guy takes the dry powdered creamer, lights a lighter, and it goes up like you're spraying gasoline. This is going in your body. When we look at this, there are so many toxins that are going into people's body every day. This is what we would call processed foods. I would strongly recommend these times you do not eat processed foods. What am I going to eat then? Well, how about actual food that was produced by Mother Earth? I know it's hard to find nowadays. Strawberries, bananas, lettuce, vegetables, broccoli. Again, well, that's true. Yeah. Fruit and vegetable purchase restrictions in retailers to last week's. That's true. Now they're going to, of course, restrict these things, which are going to boost your immune system. But hey, 2-for-1 sales, because they're going to weaken your immune system. You don't want to have a weakened immune system in these times. You end up like all those people that are no longer with us. That DS term. This guy's storing up. He knows what's coming. Look at this. This guy's ready. Now I could get one more. Look at this. Now, we should have been behaving like this guy a while ago and stocking up, when things were. I saw one comment by a regular that I know had poo-pooed. Well, maybe not poo-pooed, but just said, don't kind of spread the fear and everything when we were saying about a year ago about better stock up. And now it was like, stock up now. It's time. Okay, it's time. Well, as long as we recognize it's time, it's more than time. Actually, it's time to go to a completely different level. And we do understand, there's a lot of people, most people really go week to week. So if whatever it is, if you have X amount of dollars to spare and that X amount, well, if you get X amount of dollars coming in and it's the amount that needs to go out is the same, you got to make tough choices. So where do you cut back? But then again, when you look at your food, think nutritional value. Don't just think in terms of, well, I like this. Or, don't just think in terms of even just macros, carbs, fats, and proteins and calories. No, think in terms of nutrients. How much is this going to boost my immune system? Or in the case of some things, how much is it going to destroy my immune system and set me up for a fall, the final fall, 6 feet down?
Right. Yeah. And You know, when you're getting things, we all need a certain amount of protein. So one thing you can do is get those big protein powders, grass-fed, non-GMO. There's a lot we can do. And yes, I know it's expensive out there, but we have to start making decisions, because I've heard from family members about the meetings that are going on in grocery stores, and how soon people are going to be, they're going to be able to get just one thing, just one, you know, and that's all you're going to be able to get. So we need to get in there, get those things like lentils. And what we do is we prefer the buckets of stuff. It's a little more expensive, but you're keeping it safe from mice, rats. You're keeping it safe from bugs and stuff of that nature. So yeah, I mean, a few more bucks for a bucket, but it's going to stay dry. It's going to stay safe. Just things to think about, and cut back where you can. Get the whole family in on it. You know, there's got to be a change jar. There's got to be $1 here, quarter there. Start throwing it in the jars. And when you get enough, get a bucket. I mean, we really have to make some hard decisions right now, but they're going to be decisions worth making here in the future.
So, did you know that Columbus doors at the U.S. Capitol are 17 feet tall, solid brass, and weigh 10 tons each? Now, he's saying this for one purpose, but the thing I'd want to point out is, who would really need 17-foot tall doors? Who could move on their own doors that weigh 10 tons each easily? Obviously, it would be somebody that's maybe 12 to 14 feet tall, you know, something about that. That's very strong, not used to the gravity around here, used to much heavier gravity. You know, this is part of the wakey, obviously. Now, it is tricky, and we've talked about this before, too, because, yes, even us, when we talk about the fact that we're having a temporary human experience in these vehicles, and they keep downgrading the vehicles. That's what they do. And that's why, you know, Homo sapiens is being downgraded, and the next one that comes along will be weaker, even shorter lifespan. And, you know, it won't have any of the intuitive ability, because that's going to be all, you know, purged from the slave race that they really desire. And then at the same time, we're going to have what's going to be like superhumans. So here, when you look to your mythologies, and when you look to your modern mythology of like DC Comics and, you know, all these characters that have superpowers, well, the ones that live out in nature and live in harmony with the land, you know, their lifespans are going to get longer, because they're going to be leaving the Kali Yuga. Those that decide to stay in the cities and decide to take all the tech with them, you know, their lifespans will continue to get shorter, and then the illusion of freedom will be over for them, because again, they will be everything that Klaus has said, you know, chipped, and he'll know what they're feeling, know what they're thinking, etc. Whatever puppet's in charge, you know, the puppeteers, they're pretty big beings, as you see. They need 17-foot tall doors.
Mm-hmm. You know, and this is curious, because it kind of struck up a conversation with a family member about the amount of toxins that are being poured into our bodies now. And if we didn't have those toxins, how much healthier and how much longer we would actually live. And it's like they really have cranked up, you know, the amount of toxins in our bodies. They really can. They can take a lot. They can take a lot of abuse. But could you imagine if we were in a clean world, surrounded by clean things, surrounded by Mother Nature, how much stronger, more productive we would be, how much less brain fog we could have? Because that's a symptom of toxicity, is brain fog, anxiety, exhaustion, achy bones. You know, it's all about toxicity. And just look at, you know, I don't want to overwhelm people, but if you look at the things that are just around you, like plastic cups, plastic tables, the paint on your walls, the TVs, all of this stuff is emitting a sort of toxin that ultimately we're absorbing. Because remember, we've had all those conversations about water and how we all are kind of together. We look separate, but we're really together. And that's coming into our energy bodies. So the sooner we can find a place where you can maybe have a log cabin, or be where you can be in a position you can buy things like blankets that are just made of cotton without all the dyes, that's going to lend to our health. That's going to make things a lot better and a lot easier on our bodies, because A plastic cup might look like a plastic cup, but you're making contact with those chemicals. Ultimately, they're going to make its way into your body. And when you just saturate yourself with it, that makes things difficult. So we really have to be very deliberate in the way we detox, but be careful, because if you detox too fast, you run into a problem there too. I mean, we really are in a place that things are really wobbly right now. It's hard to find balance, but balance is where it's at.
Absolutely. As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Check out Medicinal Foods, the link on every video. Use coupon code EEA. It gets you a 10% discount as well. Much love. Stay prepared. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.